taken over the spotlight of the media and everyone's attention, and Aaron Rodgers almost got traded, quote unquote, from reports. I've talked about it in the past. Nick has not, though, so we're going to discuss that a little today, along with the draft. But Nick, what are your thoughts? Just give me your just overall thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers and Packers front office tension.
So I'll take you back to Thursday. I'm just enjoying my day. It's draft day. Extremely excited. Like, this just isn't on my mind at all. There's been talk in the past that Rodgers is a little unhappy, but then it's around 4 o'clock, let's say. It's about 5 hours before the draft. And I just get an alert on my phone. And it's like, Rodgers wants out. And I'm like, what's this even mean? What are they talking about? So I start reading, and it's like, Aaron Rodgers is very disgruntled, was the word they used, with the Green Bay Packers organization. So
of course,
turn on the TV. It's on ESPN. It's not on NFL Network yet. I'm watching it. I'm like, all right, let's see what they got to say. And they're like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers wants to no longer play for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers wants to go to – it was the AFC West. I'm like, what do you want to do on the AFC West? What are they talking about? I'm all confused. And then the day goes on. More people are talking about it. And I'm like, hold on. Like, Aaron Rodgers, like, it's starting to hit me like he might not be a Green Bay Packer. Of course, I think the media is overplaying it a little bit, because tweets are coming out. They're like, oh, a trade's just about final with the Denver Broncos, and he's going to be a Denver Bronco. And I'm like, okay, darn. But that's not true. He's not a Denver Bronco right now.
Contrary reports came out hours later saying the Broncos were not even focused. They didn't send an offer. They were just ready, gearing up for the draft. So
there's another thing. It said the 49ers, a lot of people who watch this channel, their team, they said they offered the 3rd overall pick, Jimmy Garoppolo, a couple other players, a couple other first-round picks, and maybe even some other stuff for Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers turned it down immediately. And then Kyle Shanahan said that he called Matt LaFleur. He was like, should I even try to get Rodgers? And Matt's like, no, don't. They're not going to even talk to you. Like, so I don't even think that offer was ever official. It might have been something that just someone drew up.
Thinking about, yeah.
And so Rodgers is still a Packer right now. We'll see what happens. I don't think the Packers will trade him. I think that they might. No, they're not going to trade him. He's not going to retire. We'll see what happens. But it's definitely really interesting right now, especially his problem is not with Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur and him are still good, and Matt LaFleur is trying to talk to him. Hopefully he can. Matt LaFleur's a younger guy. He's even younger than Aaron Rodgers, is he? Or he's about the same age. But his problem was the front office. And another report that came out that we don't know if this is true either. He's like, all right, fire Goot. Fire the Packers GM, and I'll be back. And we're like, what? You can't just fire the general manager. Like, he doesn't have that much power, even though Packers fans are like going for Goot's head after that. Yeah. But it's very interesting, everything. We don't know how much of the media is true. Devontae Adams actually tweeted, gotta appreciate what you got while you got it. This was a couple days ago. And Rodgers liked that tweet. Everyone started going crazy. Like, oh my gosh, he liked the tweet. What's this mean? And it just means that he's talking to his teammates. Rodgers did say, the only thing he has said is he did not want this to go public. He wanted this to stay between him and the front office. So that makes me believe he wanted to get a deal done. He doesn't want a restructure. He wants an extension. We've offered him an extension. We'll see if they can negotiate back and through, get something worked out. I want to extend Rodgers too, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that was a good summary. And I think you kind of pointed it out too with the whole Russell Wilson saga was, well, there was odds on him landing on the Bears, and then the Bears Super Bowl odds just shot up. Then you couldn't place a bet on Russell Wilson going to the Bears. And this happened with J.J. Watt before he went to the Cardinals. This also happened with Carson Wentz before he went to the Colts. And when those two happened, it was basically, like the groundwork was done and it was set in stone. So it kind of made people think like, whoa, like Russell Wilson's gone. And then you hear about it that it was never even close like that. So you're like, wow, okay, well, I mean, that was just completely off. And similar to Russell Wilson with Seattle and then Aaron Rodgers with the Packers, if they were to trade either of them, if either team were to trade the quarterback, they would have over $30 million in cap hit this year, dead cap. There is no incentive unless you're the Eagles and your roster is just old, you don't have much talent, and you're just tearing it down, no reason to do that. Especially for a team like the Packers that, I mean, they have their next quarterback up, and he's cheap this year. And if they were to do that, they'd basically just be throwing the season away because there's no chance they could win any real meaningful stuff with 30 million in dead cap. That's like 1/6 of the cap. So that's where I'm kind of like, okay, they're not going to trade him today because that would just be like dumbfounding. Maybe after June 1st it goes down a lot, but I still don't think that's such a weird time for a trade, right? Like, I don't think they would do that. I guess my question to you is, do you think he actually would ever consider retiring, or do you believe that's just fake?
I think he'd consider retiring, but I think it's more likely he'd be under center for the Green Bay Packers because he's literally the MVP of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say he's in his prime, but he's still at the top of his game.
Like fourth prime.
He's still just up there at the top, throwing 40 plus touchdowns a season. If you look at the Packers' touchdowns over the last years, they just blow away the league in pass touchdowns. And we got him a wide receiver. We'll talk about our draft later, but we got him a weapon. He's got Devin Funchess this year, who's new. He's got Devontae Adams, who's a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. So even though he's frustrated, I think it's enough for him to overcome. He's not going to completely walk away from the game just yet. And everyone's like, oh, Jeopardy. He can still host Jeopardy later. He can host Jeopardy while he's an NFL player. He literally figured out days he's available away from practice because it only takes 40 days to record an entire year of Jeopardy. And he found 40 days that he can just record Jeopardy. So if he wants to be a Jeopardy host, that's not going to kick him out of football. He's not going to retire this year. He's going to play. Hopefully it's with the Packers. But I think it's most likely he plays with the Packers this year. Second, he plays with a different team. And then third, he retires.
So you'll think he'll definitely play for sure this year?
I think he's playing this year.
Yeah.
And another thing is he was just at the Kentucky Derby. And a bunch of NBC reporters like, oh, my gosh, will you give us a live interview? And he said no. But he's really good friends with A.J. Hawk. And like they go to the Derby together every year. Them, Randall Cobb, a few other people. And A.J. Hawk is on the Pat McAfee show. And basically, right after the Derby, A.J. Hawk said that there's no way Rodgers walks away from football. Like, he's not saying that he talked to Rodgers and this is what Rodgers said, but he was with Rodgers, in A.J. Hawk's opinion, as someone who is very close to Rodgers, not some random media guy that no one knew of that just happens to have a blue check mark on Twitter is saying about some trade. It's someone that Rodgers would consider one of probably his best friends, that they go every year. They probably hang out other times during the year. And if this guy is saying Rodgers isn't walking away from football, I trust him. He also says that Rodgers is not going to get the GM fired, which I also believe because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that statement was basically, the report was that Aaron Rodgers said it's either me or you fire the GM, Brian Gutekunst. So that just seemed, I know a lot of people have come out and said that just is complete baloney. And I mean, I believe that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not fathomable for a player to be selfish to that extent that you got to choose between them, but I just cannot see Aaron Rodgers saying that. And I know he's disgruntled.
And if he said it, he didn't mean it. Another thing, like if he did say, he might just be mad. He wants an extension. He's MVP for the 3rd time. He's got to the NFC Championship twice in a row. He might be mad at the GM, but there's no way he truly wants that man to no longer be a Green Bay Packer. Goot's only been GM for a few years, but he's been in the Packers organization for a very long time.
For a very long time, yeah. So, man, it's wild. And I think especially, too, after the whole Mac Jones to the Niners thing, I think, you really just do. It just, again, you have to take the media with a grain of salt. And I think the Mac Jones thing's another example of, everyone's like, oh, I'm hearing Mac Jones to the Niners at 3, this, that, and the other. And, well, turns out he went 15, and maybe they weren't into, the Niners weren't into Mac Jones as much as people thought they were. So, yeah, I just think it's another example of,
Something the NFL does very well is they're a year-round sport. They start the preseason in August. They go all the way to February. Then they have the draft in April. They release the schedules in May. But they need stories like this to stay a year-long sport, to keep people interested. And in order to do that, people like the media are going to start making up stories. Like, what's a good story? Oh, how about we all know Aaron Rodgers is not too happy with the Packers, but let's embellish it a little bit. Let's drag it out, see what we can get, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely like, I don't think either of us are sitting here and saying that there's not tension. Because that is like,
No.
There clearly is. And, you know, Rodgers is clearly not the most satisfied as other people are with their situations. But to say that he's demanding control of this, demanding control of that, I don't believe that. And to be fair, like the franchise has done a few things to just like piss him off. 3 examples off the top of my head. Obviously, the Jordan Love, they drafted him without like telling Rodgers, and they traded up to get him. So obviously, that's one thing. Another thing was after he publicly praised Jake Kummerow, he was cut. Now, some people have said that was the moment where reparations could not be like given back to him. That was a crossing of the line. And if that is true, like he would not, I don't think he'd even be considered playing. And if that is true, wow, because that is so minor of a detail that is overlooked.
I actually like Jake Kummerow a lot more than other Packers fans because, like, I mean, he just didn't play a lot. He had like a really good preseason one year. He had like over 110 yards in one game and like 3 touchdowns. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy could be good one day. And like he could be a good wide receiver, but he just never really got an opportunity. He got injured. He was just like kind of the 4th or 5th guy. And if Rodgers could have liked him, but there's no way Rodgers is going to retire because Jake Kummerow, who is now a practice squad member on the Buffalo Bills, is no longer a Green Bay Packer. And then another story from draft night is I just remember I was waiting for the Broncos pick, and I was like, all right, Broncos, please just take a quarterback. And then, like, I know that you're not going to go after Rodgers. And they didn't take a quarterback in that first round. And I got really nervous there that, oh, my gosh, maybe he is almost going to go to the Broncos. But nothing happened that draft night. Nothing happened during the whole draft. And I feel like if they were going to dish Rodgers, it would have been on draft night because this was a really good quarterback class, and they could have got someone to compete with Love.
Definitely. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, too, was Alex Van Pelt was our quarterback coach a few years ago. And they just, like, fired him, and apparently Rodgers, like, wasn't too involved with that. And so that, like, obviously made him mad. So, like, the franchise has done some weird things to, like, not try to please him and just annoy him, which, you know, you don't want. And you think you would try to, you know, take more decision-making to Rodgers and, you know, ask what he wants or what he thinks about certain things and maybe not like blindside him with some news that's, you know, going to affect him a lot. Like, hey, we're trading up for a quarterback, but we're not going to tell you. You're just going to see it live on TV. So
yeah, he had no idea.
Like that you just wish the front office would kind of have more transparency with, but yeah. This is just how it goes, I guess, from Favre to Rodgers. Same. We and you obviously weren't really remember much of the Favre ending, but what I've heard, it is similar to this.
But we've talked about in the past how like the Packers need to go win right now, and I thought when we re-signed Aaron Jones, like that was a really good sign that all right, we're gonna go for it. We're going all in. This is the year. And I thought that would have really, like, I thought Rodgers would have enjoyed re-getting Aaron Jones because neither of us thought we'd re-sign Aaron Jones. We thought we'd go to Jamal Williams and then get another guy. We didn't think we were going to re-sign Aaron Jones. And that really shows the Packers are all in this year.
I'm with you. And they obviously drafted more for need instead of future in this draft too, which we can get into now.